welcome to the Movies to Watch Before You Die podcast. I am your host, Dylan, with my co-host,
Gab.
the wickedly talented Adela Dazeem. Do other people remember that? John Travolta saying that about Idina Menzel?
I think about that at least once a week.
I feel like I still randomly, anytime Idina Menzel's mentioned, that's the only thing I think of her for. Not
Yeah,
important
same.
at all. So, before we get into the movie that we're talking about this week, Gab, why are people listening to us?
Well, number one, we make very weird pop culture references. Esoteric was the word I was searching for. Pop culture references. That's number one. That's why you should listen. But also, as a former actress, I am well versed in character development and script analysis. So I love to make comments about that in movies.
And I am a former video editor who went to school for the craft and just a fan of movies, like I hope you are too, if you're listening to this. Today, we are going to be talking about, let me double check, I believe it's, yes, the 1990 sci-fi horror classic, Tremors. So, Gab, you had never seen this before, so I would like you to tell me, what is Tremors about?
What's this all been about? What am I working toward?
You think you know everything about me, don't you?
I dive at your bottom. I bloody well ought to.
Here we go. So Tremors is about what I would call an unincorporated town in Nebraska, right?
Nevada. Perfection, Nevada. Population 14.
14. And I'll tell you what, by about 10 minutes into this movie, that population drops drastically because there is a creature under the sand that is killing people. That's what the movie's about.
Okay. Let's see if that was close to the IMDb plot synopsis, which was, natives of a small isolated town defend themselves against strange underground creatures which are killing them one by one. Now, this one has a tagline that I think is really good. They say there's nothing new under the sun, but under the ground, ...
Lame, but okay.
What? I like that one. You don't like that one?
The tagline, it never gets me. Taglines are dumb to me. They're either a comment on the movie or they're a very lame saying that's like very like, I don't know. You can't see the gesture, but I'm like pretending to hit someone with my elbow.
There are totally very good taglines, though. In space,
What's
no
the
one can hear you
tagline for
scream.
like? Oh, sure, that's a really good one. What's the tagline for Star Wars?
I don't
A
know
New
off the
Hope.
top of my head.
Well, what good are you?
I'm not just made out of taglines, Gab. You know what tagline lives rent free in my head?
What?
Alien versus Predators. But it's not a great movie, but the tagline is so good to me, and I've used it in many situations. No matter who wins, we lose.
Oh, that is good.
I think that's real good
That
for a
is
movie
good.
that's not very
Yeah.
good. Okay. So now that we have said the tagline and the plot, we can get.
Wait, are you not going to look up the tagline to A New Hope for me?
Do you want me to look up the tagline to Star Wars: A New Hope right now in this moment?
Yeah, right now, live.
I'm looking it up. I'm typing now.
Jesus Christ, what do you think? I'm just making small talk over here?
Oh, I'm gonna be honest. It's really disappointing. Somewhere in space, this could all be happening right now.
Oh, come on. All right, I hate taglines.
Kind of a bummer.
That is
Oh,
such a
the
bummer.
other. Okay, wait. There is another more famous tagline that it lists on IMDb as well. A long time ago in a galaxy far, far away.
All right, okay. That one I'll accept.
That is better.
Yeah, 100%. All right, so anyway, back to this movie.
Yes. Now we can get to our opinions. Is that okay with you?
Absolutely. You go first.
All right. Opinion time.
In this critic's opinion,
You know, that's just like your opinion, man.
Well, I have a right to my opinion, and my opinion is you have no right to your opinion.
I think that this is sort of, I don't want to say like the little movie that could, but because I feel like I say that about a lot of my movies.
You do?
I do. I feel like this is a small movie that has left a much bigger footprint on pop culture than it ever would have thought it did. It is one of those movies that I loved the efficiency of the storytelling, because I feel like I had it written down here, I think somewhere, within 15 minutes, we know Val, we know Earl, and we know that people are dying. I think 15 minutes in is right when we find Edgar on top of the was it like an electrical
Telephone pole.
And all we know is he was terrified enough by something to wait up there until he dehydrated to death. He died of thirst. And I think that is such a good, like, inciting incident. Like, oh wow, something is happening here.
Mm-hmm.
Even better is I love it has that little misdirect of we see they drag something away on their car. It is a creature that is snake-like and they are terrified of it. And it is not until like it was your first time seeing this, so I don't know how much you knew about the movie. Did you know that there were giant worms? Obvious spoilers.
No, I didn't know anything.
So were you shocked when you see that it's not a bunch of those little snake things, it's a giant one?
I don't know that I would say shocked, but
Were you surprised that those were its tongue, not the creature?
you know, I'm gonna be honest with you. I was thinking about The Thing quite a bit.
Interesting. Why? Because I don't feel like they're similar movies at all.
No, but I think in The Thing, remember it opened up its mouth and it had little things on the inside, like the
Yeah,
little
like
lassos.
tendrils or tentacles.
Yes. So to me, it was kind of like, oh, this is another thing with things in it, like The Thing.
I suppose I feel like I should get past my opinion and ask you your opinion because I need to know what you thought of this movie that you had never seen before and that you know
All right.
virtually nothing about.
That's fine. So, I started this movie and I was immediately annoyed by the like, what in tarnation? Like, I couldn't
Why
I
are you
couldn't get
annoyed by it?
behind it. I don't know. I just don't like it.
They're simple
Um,
country folk.
Yeah, and the whole like the unincorporated town of 14, I was just like, I to me it felt like it was made even more unrealistic by the fact that they were speaking like that and they were in an
'Cause places like
unincorporated town
that
of 14.
do exist.
That is true. I've been to some of them actually.
And they build the reason, like honestly, the way it totally builds in reasons for why it makes sense because why
Sure.
can't they contact people outside? There's only one road going in and out. It's blocked. There's a mountain range that blocks, CB radio signals. It makes total sense. That's like, oh, we're on our
you're
own.
right. You're right. It bothered me, and that's a personal thing, right? Look at me. I'm from here, reporting live from my tiny studio apartment in the middle of New York City. So
Gab sees 14 people a day and says to them, "I'm walking here."
I see 14 people a second. I'm gliding here, is what you meant to say.
Imagine
What a great badge of beauty. I don't know, Dylan. I didn't love it. It felt like a worse version of The Thing, and it honestly made me miss that movie. I thought that movie was way better.
I'm trying to understand what the similarities are, though.
Because
Besides
it's like
the fact that there are creatures
there's
that
a
are
creature,
like not normal.
Yeah, and it's killing people, and we've got to figure out how to stop it, or we've got to figure out what to do. You know what I mean? Like we've got to all work together and
But like the thing is like dark and isolation, and it could be Among Us any time. And Tremors is light and comedic, and you got Kevin Bacon going "fuck you," like it's like they are not similar in tone remotely to me.
No, not at all. But I they're just similar in like situation. I think The Thing is obviously a much better movie. I will say this. The last 20 minutes I was in. When they're
good.
The last 20 minutes I was in, it didn't rope me in. I wasn't like, oh my God, this is so good. I didn't love the humor. I will say this, Reba looked good. She was probably like 25 in this movie. No, she had to be older than
She's
that.
probably older than that, but
She looked
just
good.
so like caught a moment of it and was like, she looks so different. And obviously, Reba's had a lot of work done too, but I believe this was her first role.
Yeah, I believe that. Kevin Bacon, I'm not a fan of Kevin Bacon, although I did meet him once. I met him
What do you
once.
mean you're not a fan of Kevin Bacon? I love Kevin Bacon.
I don't think Kevin Bacon is anything to write home about.
I'm shocked to hear this. I think Kevin Bacon is one of our greatest talents.
Disagree. I don't know. It just didn't do it for me. I didn't like it. It all felt like I was hoping you were going to come in here and tell me like really cool things about the practical effects, like The Thing.
I mean, I still might.
Okay, good. Because I think that is maybe interesting. I mean, I will tell you this: when we do a movie that I haven't seen, I try to avoid Googling it before I watch it or even before we talk, because I don't necessarily want to have like other people's opinions in my ear.
Okay.
But I quickly Googled this. I don't remember why, and I saw a review that said it was a perfect film. So I don't know
that
that people love this.
Yeah,
I know they have. many others that follow. I mean, I even told my boss today before I left work that this was the subject we were talking about. And she said, "Oh, that's my brother's favorite movie." And I was like, what the hell? Because it didn't do it for me. And I really I almost feel badly that I don't have a ton to say because it just, I get it. I watched it. I understand. There were a few moments at the end where I was very excited. I think the finish was really good when they go fishing with the bomb. But everything up to that, I was just like, I don't know. It just didn't do it for me.
I think it also does a good job. And, because I'm going to try and sing its praises if I know that you don't have much good to say. It does a really good job of, from a screenwriting standpoint, painting characters that we will assume are very stupid. Like, we know they don't plan, and slowly making them smarter and smarter over time. Like they are forced to come up with plans constantly, and they keep thinking like, okay, get inside. Oh, getting inside doesn't work. Okay, let's get up on the roof. Okay, getting up on the roof doesn't work. Okay, let's try pole vaulting from rock to rock. Let's try fishing with bombs. Like they have to come up with so many ideas because what is also smart? The worms, like the graboids, which I do like the name for them also, graboids, are quite clever. Like they dig a trench at one point. They figure out what to do to effectively screw the people over at every point.
Yeah.
You know who the one person I wish the graboids had got was?
Who?
Melvin. That kid was a little shit.
Yeah. Yeah, but see, even that, I was just like the way that they wrote these characters, and the tertiary characters, right? Not Earl and Val, but like the
Your side characters.
Yeah, I was just like, they're like very overdone caricatures. I don't know.
You think?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, now I feel like every time we do this and you're like, do you think because da da da, I'm like, maybe I just didn't watch it like with enough.
Did I watch the right movie?
Yeah, but I
watched the
don't
remake
know,
of The Thing, I think.
I just after like 30 minutes, I was just kind of like, oh man, this is gonna be a long night.
But like you said, it did pull you in by like the last act.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
I was excited to know because I thought when they got to the rocks, I thought, okay, so they're about to figure it out. And then they didn't. And I was kind of like, oh man, we got what, like there's more. But everything up to that, I was just kind of like, it just felt like, okay, there's something weird happening. Okay, we found it. Okay, it's smarter than us. Okay, what are we gonna do? And it was just very like, I don't know, it took up until the last act for something to happen that made me really kind of perk up.
So what did it? What made you perk up?
It was at the very end when they were on the rocks. They seemed like they were screwed. It was over. There was no other way.
There is nothing around. There's no rocks to pole vault to. We're stuck.
We are stuck. And then I think it's Earl has the idea, or Val has the idea to go fishing with the bomb, to lure it in with the sounds of his footsteps, and then throw the bomb, have it get the bomb, and then the bomb blows it up. And that was really exciting to me. And then even beyond that, they realized they've got one left. And they only had one opportunity with the bomb. And I think maybe they think they fumble it. And it ends up
what
actually.
Happens is
that's right.
They put in what is a clever twist because it seems like it's all too easy. They're going to get it. It took the bait again, the cleverest one, and it spits it back out at them.
Yes, it spits it back out at them. They managed to avoid being blown up by it, and then Val, in like a suicidal kamikaze, I'm just going for it event, runs, and the thing that I keep calling it the thing, and I'm sorry, the graboid chases him and he jumps and it winds up going off the cliff.
Well,
and then
what
that's
he does is, and it's actually a callback, and again, watching it for one time, you might not have even realized it. The movie at the very, very beginning starts with them talking about what? Do you remember how he wakes up Earl?
Yeah, with the earthquake.
He's shaking. No, he says stampede.
Oh.
So it's like a stampede at the end. He's got the thing barreling towards him because he threw the bomb, and the bomb makes them run away from it. So he forced it to run away towards him, away from the bomb, and jumps out of the way, and it stampedes right off. And that's when he hits it with the "Can you fly?"
Yeah.
I love Kevin Bacon in this. There's a lot at the beginning that I think it's again, I noticed it, when you rewatch it, you notice these things. Again, in the first 15 minutes, it is doing all it can to show you shots that are normal establishing shots, but like from a weird angle. It'll show you the pogo stick directly hitting the ground, or the kid bouncing the ball, and you're thinking like, why is it showing me that? The jackhammer, them nailing the fence. And why? Because these are all vibrations, these are all sounds. And it's like kind of already putting that in your head, like, oh, they're making a lot of noise. And it's just subtly suggesting to you, like, this is noisy. This is noisy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I really love that. And I also do think, I could probably get to this more on the facts. I don't think I have anything in particular, but I love the fact that you can tell that this is not the most expensive movie ever made. And they do every single thing they can to make these monsters as much of a threat as possible with what must have been a shoestring budget. You can tell that there are miniatures used. You can tell that there's a reverse shot. The first time you see the tongues unfurl out of the mouth, again, I probably saw this in a behind the scenes somewhere, but I've just seen the movie enough times to know too that that's a reverse shot. So what they did is they had the tongue start all the way out, they pull them back in, and then they played in reverse for the movie. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like I said, you got your miniatures. You have one blue screen shot that doesn't look very good. I think it was blue screen at least, where it's Bert shooting at the Graboid in his basement, which might be my favorite scene when they start shooting at it, and you have that great move where it pans over to the wall, which is covered in guns, and they just start pulling gun down, and just shooting away at this thing. But I do think that there is a lot of cleverness about it. It'll show you shots where it's supposed to be like the ground POV. When you get further into the movie, it shows you shots burrowing through the dirt. It shows you floorboards being scooped up, because I imagine it must have been a pain in the ass to actually use the practical effects for the Graboid. So it does a lot. It reminds me of Jaws in the sense that I know that they had trouble with the mechanical shark in Jaws, so they did a lot to go around showing it directly. And this movie does a lot to go around showing you something's there, but it'll just be like, there's a dust trail. We know that there's one over there. And I like that clever filmmaking where it's like, well, we had to do what we could to make this work.
Yeah. And you know what's funny, Dylan? I think that's the difference between you and I. And it's also funny because I was having a conversation with my boss today about Disney World. He just got back from Disney with his like 8-year-old son and his family.
Okay.
And he was saying that the interesting thing about Disney is that so many of the attractions are still exactly the same from like the 70s. And there are two different kinds of people. There are people that pay all this money and go all the way to Orlando, Florida to spend 7 days and thousands upon thousands of dollars at Disney World to go on the exact same ride that they've been on 100 times. That is no different than it was in 1970, right? Like same technology, same bullshit animatronics.
I'm waiting to see how you pull this in. Okay.
And then there are people who are like, I'm not spending all that money to go sit on It's a Small World when now we have iPhones and I can just watch, like, we have these movies that have this incredible graphics that makes things seem so real. Like, why would I want to go and pay all that money to see these animatronic dolls, blinking? And to me, I think, and maybe, like I said, the people that like the older things, like they can appreciate the technology that was used back then. And it was so cool and it was so unique. And so for me, a movie like this, it's kind of like, why am I watching this Graboid that is clearly fake and all these shots that are clearly going around showing it when like I could actually watch a movie with a monster? Or I don't even like monster movies because I think, like we talked about that one time, like the Uncanny Valley, it's like, I already know it's fake, even if it's the best CGI imaginable.
Well, yeah, by your logic, then you can't win either way, because you just said like, they won't even show me this thing. And you have no appreciation for them going around it. But at the same time, when it's CGI, you don't like that either, because it's
no.
get out of the Uncanny Valley.
I think that they showed too much.
Oh, I absolutely don't. I think that
oh my God.
show the perfect amounts, and when they do show it, I do think it looks real.
Oh,
because they built a real giant fucking worm.
Yeah.
And you know what? When that thing comes out of the ground and its mouth is out there, I think it looks good.
I don't know. It looked to me like Snuffleupagus's trunk.
Are you just talking about the tongues in particular?
Yeah, like when the tongues are pressed up against the car, and it's
I could see that sometimes. I suppose that it looks like they're clearly just like pulling these tongues around in some kind of way. But I think the actual big creature works really well.
Maybe, I don't know. It all seemed like very Muppety to me, And
I'm sure that there is a degree of that.
yeah, and I didn't feel that way about The Thing. Whenever we saw The Thing from The Thing, I was kind of like, oh my God. Even like we talked about those effects, like the I don't remember what it was, but when it like it in the scene where they're
When
my
it
God, I'm
grows
really
spider
botching
legs
this.
and crawls off of the
Yes.
body.
Thank you. Yes. I thought that was way cooler than anything they did with this. And it
To be
just
fair, Gab,
felt
that's one of the greatest special effects movies of all times, especially
Yeah.
practically. Like that is undeniably great practical effects.
I'd love to rewatch that. And I don't think I would change. Maybe I would change my mind. I don't know. I'd love to rewatch that. I think about that all the time. Like I keep meaning to look up a video on how they did the practical effects on that movie. But anyway,
There's
I digress.
a lot of interesting stuff there, I'm sure.
I'd love to watch it. But yeah, this just didn't do it for me. And it felt like they showed way too much. And I think if you have a real appreciation for filmmaking, the art of how do we make a monster movie if the monster isn't real, right? Especially on a low budget, then I can understand why you would love this. But to me, it was just kind of like old and outdated and not frightening, even psychologically.
I also think that if you are just a horror fan in general, that you would have a greater appreciation for this movie. And I know that that's not your genre generally.
Mhm.
But yeah, I do think it is really good. And I think it's one of those horror movies that you can watch if you're not a huge horror person either, because it's not in the dark and filled with jump scares and like you're gonna crap yourself watching this. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it
It's
wasn't
sort
the
of like
worst
a more
movie I've ever
fun.
seen. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I didn't hate it. It wasn't the worst movie I've ever seen, but it definitely didn't do it for me. I think you had a better shot at The Thing.
Yeah, you know what? I'm glad to hear you say how much you did like the thing, because I'm like, you know what? Then I've done my job. Even if she didn't pick it, I'm like, I have shown one other person the greatness of the thing, and that should be enough.
It was good. I mean, I think we're also kind of like, when we started this podcast, I think we were looking for something that maybe we've lowered. No, I don't want to say lowered our standards, but at this point, I think maybe I would revisit The Thing and feel differently. But anyway.
So maybe someday down the line.
Mhm.
But can I talk about, I know I had brought up Jaws before. There is one other thing that I'm not sure if it is a direct Jaws reference or not. You've seen Jaws, right?
Absolutely not.
What?
Oh no, I'm sorry. Actually, I just went to Montauk for the first time this summer, which I think is where the real Jaws happened.
I have no idea. I don't know if Jaws is based on any one particular real shark incident.
I think it is, and I think it was from Montauk, which, listener, Montauk is the end, very, very end of Long Island, which is probably like 2 hours from where I grew up, probably 3 hours from where you grew up. Maybe less than that. What are we, like 40 minutes away? And
like 2.5 hours, something like that.
Yeah. And I mean, have you ever been? Like, I had just never gone.
Yeah, I actually went this summer as well.
Oh my God, for the first time?
Yes.
So funny. Yeah, it's just one of those places that, like, if you're a local, you just kind of don't really go to. But anyway, yeah, and they have a fake Jaws hanging, and they talk about how this was the inspiration for Jaws.
So I will say, without spoiling what happens in Jaws, I do think Walter Chang, his death in the convenience store, I think is a homage to a death in Jaws, but I won't say whose now.
Wait, how did he die in the
thing comes up out of the ground and it pulls him into the mouth and is sort of just swinging him around. Poor Walter's like, ah.
Yeah. See, and again, I thought the Thing was way better at doing that exact same thing.
I always remember that guy as the grandpa from Three Ninjas Strike Back, which is a terrible movie, but it's a movie of my childhood. And every time I'm like, no, not the grandpa. Like, I'm like, that's sad.
That's funny.
I also really like the line, "Get out of your pants," which is said in such a, like, it is a beat of comedy, but it is like, no, you actually just need to do to survive. And they don't make her spend the entire rest of the movie in her underwear. She's immediately given pants again, but it is like a funny moment that it's like they both just look at each other like, no, seriously, you have to get out of your pants.
Yeah.
Did you like Bert and Heather Gummer?
I appreciated Reba.
I guess I should be asking Bert Gummer in particular. Do you like that character?
No.
Because he kind of becomes the cornerstone of this franchise.
Really?
Somehow he is the only actor who is in every one of these movies.
You know what? Pause. I hate it when a movie franchise is like, what are the odds it's happening again to this very same person? Like, it's just, I hate that.
I will say, having seen a couple of these movies, I haven't seen all of them because I know that they get like ridiculous, but
How many are there?
7?
Jesus Christ.
The second one is actually pretty dang good. The second one brings back Earl and Bert. You know, it's the two of them working together. They got paid big money by some guy in Mexico to take care of a graboid issue because he's like, you guys have dealt with this. You guys can help me. And they sort of evolve. And again, what I think is like a semi-clever way. There is some bad CGI in it, but they transform from graboids into what are called ass blasters.
Shut up.
They like shoot fireballs out of their asses, if I remember right, and they are able to fly, which, you know, comes from Can You Fly, Sucker, and all this stuff that they're making fun of. So I think in each movie they do evolve the graboid a little bit.
Jesus.
The second one's good. I know that there is like a prequel at some point that goes back to like to the 1800s to Bert's ancestor starting
my
the
God.
town of perfection or something. Bert, though, I feel like is that guy who is like such a conspiracy theorist. I'm not sure if Bert would either mock QAnon or if he would be like fully invested in it.
Yeah.
But I did like Bert, and I like his license plate of Uzi for you.
Yeah.
I do like Val and Rhonda as a coupling as well.
Yeah. You know what's funny? When the movie was ending and all of a sudden he was like, should I ask her out on a date or whatever? I was like, of course they can't just like let this end. Like there has to be a romance. And it was literally like a split second. They kiss and then it's over.
Yeah, I don't think it overdoes it. It doesn't make this into like this is the romance of a lifetime it's been building up to. But you know,
No,
it does a good job of building up like, you know, you and your damn list, Val, how you want, you know, he does that thing in the beginning where he's holding up each finger and he's like, legs that go all the way up, world class breasts, yada yada.
Mm-hmm.
And he's got his picture of his perfect woman, and then he's like, no, wait, this woman is perfect. And you know, it also mocks the fact that Earl is like, I bet you she can't help, you know, they're handymen. He's like, I bet she can't be handy at all. And meanwhile, Rhonda is kicking ass and having ideas the entire movie.
Yeah.
Which feels like a bad shirt, kicking ass and having ideas now that I just said that. But I do like it. I feel like those two make sense together. Also, I think maybe it just helps that you never see them together. Like you never see either of them again in a franchise. Although I think at one point Kevin Bacon was going to do like a TV show version of this and they didn't pick up the pilot.
I just cannot imagine why. Why?
Can't imagine why they didn't pick up the pilot, or can't imagine why they would make a TV show of this.
Can't imagine why it continued beyond those 90 minutes.
You know, I feel like, Gab, how do you feel about the movie Gremlins?
I don't know. I've never seen it.
God damn it, Gab, you're killing me here.
That's
Some
why we're doing
people
this.
Love things like puppetry and sort of like simple animatronics. And, you know, as much as you might not like the way it looks, those things are real. And like they were standing right next to that and reacting to the actual thing. And I think that there's something really cool about that, and that makes it easy for people to appreciate. And
yeah,
I think they're a lot of fun. Like, I don't think these are the greatest movies ever, but I love this first one. I think this first one, again, in an hour and a half, does everything you would want it to. You know what I mean? And it builds up tension for the entire first act. It has the second act where they're learning the whole time, and it has a third act of, well, we're fucked. What do we do now?
Did Giselle watch this?
She's never seen it. And she only saw like a couple bits and pieces.
Okay. That's just my barometer of like, is it normal for a 30-year-old woman to not care for this, or is it just me?
I'm sure it's possible. The only other person I talked to about it is my friend Ian. I'm at his house right now for his birthday, and he was like, oh, I love that movie.
Well, all right.
So who knows, maybe it's a demographic thing, but I think it's a movie that's got some charm to it for sure. Maybe that didn't have such an effect on you, but I'm glad to hear that it did grab you for like the third act a little bit, that it did work. Did. You didn't hate it. It just wasn't totally up your alley.
Yeah, it just, none of it was like, none of it really ever pulled me in. And then I was disappointed in the creature, and the ending definitely reeled me in a little bit. But at the end of the day, like, if I never see it again, it will absolutely not bother me. If it comes on TV, I'm not going to keep it on.
Damn. Okay. That's fair. That is your opinion, and you are entitled to it. The one last quote that I will give after Bert and Heather kill the graboid, I do like the line, broke into the wrong goddamn rec room, didn't you bastard?
Yeah, I mean, I guess I just don't even think that's all that funny. Or
I don't think this has that, like, it's not the most quotable movie. I do think it's funny though. Like, I can understand if you didn't find it funny, but I think it's a fun movie.
Okay.
Okay. Let's see here. Should we get to some facts?
Let's get to the facts.
I want the truth.
Face the facts, ducks.
Facts have no place with an organized religion.
All right. Let's start with the ratings here. Rotten Tomatoes, the tomato meter has it at 88%, an average rating of 7.2 out of 10, 45 fresh reviews, and only 6 rotten.
Wow.
Audience score of 75%, an average score of 3.8 out of 5. IMDb, I can say letters, has a 7.1 out of 10, which I think is all pretty good.
That is better than I would have thought.
Let's get to some quick reviews. The IMDb featured review. Tremors is a flawless film. The story is original and entertaining. I see you putting your head on your head. The actors make it all the more fun, especially Kevin Bacon, Fred Ward, and Michael Gross. Tremors is the kind of movie that can't be placed in a certain genre. It's a little bit of everything: horror, comedy, action, adventure. Don't miss this very good movie. Gav is very upset by that first line. I wouldn't call it a flawless film, but I think it's very good.
Mm-hmm.
Richard Harrington from the Washington Post, a delightful throwback to 50s and 60s films such as Them, The Deadly Mantis, and Attacks of both the Giant Leeches and the Crab Monsters. Widget Walls from NeedCoffee.com, the pinnacle of recent B-monster movies. It's what Eight-Legged Freaks wants to grow up to be. Which seems like an unnecessary dig at the movie Eight-Legged Freaks, but also seems apt. Have you ever seen Eight-Legged Freaks?
Do I look like I've seen Eight-Legged Freaks?
God damn it, Gab, what movies have you seen? The staff from Variety, which is weird that it didn't say anyone specific, says Tremors has a few clever twists, but ultimately can't decide what it wants to be. Flat out funny, which it's not, or a scarefest.
Which it's not.
I don't think it's trying to be, like, I think it is trying to be both. James Berardinelli from Real Views. Horror comedies often tread too far to one side or the other of that fine line. Tremors walks it like a tightrope. Anton Patel from Little White Lies. Propelled by impressive practical effects, this is an odor-inflected monster movie which fully embraces its own icky absurdity and literally low culture, but the film's hidden weapon is a strong focus on characterization. Gab does not agree. She has just given me looks of bullshit.
I'm just sitting here quietly.
An affectionate throwback to 1950s creature features, Tremors reinvigorates its genre tropes with a finely balanced combination of horror and humor. So,
okay.
This was nominated for 5 Saturn Awards, which is the Academy of Science Fiction, Fantasy, and Horror, for Best Science Fiction Film, Best Supporting Actress, and Best Special Effects. It was nominated twice for Best Supporting Actress for Finn Carter and Reba McEntire, and Best Special Effects for Tom Woodruff Jr., Alec Gillis, 4 Ward Productions, and Fantasy 2 Film Effects. Directed by Ron Underwood, who also directed City Slickers and Mighty Joe Young.
Wow.
Do you know those movies, or have you never heard of those?
I know both of those movies.
Oh, I've never seen Mighty Joe Young, but I love City Slickers.
I've never seen City Slickers, but didn't we see Mighty Joe Young in the movie theaters together?
If we did, I have no memory of it.
Isn't that the gorilla movie?
There is a gorilla. I know that much about it.
I think we saw that together.
Wow, then I have no memory of it. So couldn't have been that good.
I mean, I don't have any memory of it either, but I feel like we saw that gorilla movie.
This was written by, I'm skipping past it because I do not care to talk more about Mighty Joe Young. My bad. I was just like, fuck off. Written by S.S. Wilson, Brent Maddock, and Ron Underwood, who also wrote Wild Wild West, Ghost Dad, and Short Circuit. There's some random films, classics, all in their own right, classics.
Yeah.
The movie stars Kevin Bacon from Footloose, Wild Things, X-Men First Class, Hollow Man, and so many other movies that Gab apparently does not like.
Yawn.
Fred Ward from The Naked Gun, 33 1/3, The Final Insult, and Joe Dirt, and a million other things. Finn Carter, who was apparently from As the World Turns, the soap opera, and Michael Gross from Tremors, Tremors 2 Aftershocks, Tremors 3 Back to Perfection, Tremors 4 The Legend Begins, Tremors 5 Bloodlines, Tremors A Cold Day in Hell, and Tremors Shrieker Island.
Yikes.
Let's get to some final facts here. S.S. Wilson said that he got the idea for the film while he was working for the U.S. Navy in the California desert. While resting on a rock, he imagined what it might be like if something underground kept him from getting off that rock.
Wow.
Although Tremors
Art.
was not a big hit during its theatrical run, the film became a runaway smash in the home video market and ultimately tripled its original box office gross with VHS sales and rentals. Which I forgot to say, this movie had a budget of $10 million and a budget box office gross $16.7 million. But if it tripled that, it makes sense. Whatever.
Yeah.
The first film was an actress for country music singer Reba McEntire.
Reba.
She's a survivor. I don't know if you ever saw the show, but it always ended with that. That's the end of the theme song, and I laugh at it every time.
It's terrible.
Working titles for this film were Beneath Perfection, Dead Silence, and Land Sharks before the filmmakers decided on Tremors, although I kind of like Land Sharks.
Yeah, honestly.
S.S. Wilson and Brent Maddock were inspired to create the town of Perfection, Nevada after visiting the real-life community of Darwin, California during a film shoot for the U.S. Navy. Darwin is a barren ex-mining community with only 32 residents that can only be accessed by a single dirt road nearly 40 miles away from the next town over. Similar to Perfection, the town has no school, police station, or hospital, and is completely cut off from internet, cell phone towers, or cable television. Darwin has been the subject of many documentaries, and the filming for Tremors reshoots actually took place there.
What in the fuck?
Yeah. The golden oldie playing in the doctor's buried station wagon is a song by Bobby Bear, Drop Kick Me Jesus. Partial lyrics, Drop Kick Me Jesus through the goalposts of life, end over end, neither left nor to right. Straight through the heart of them righteous uprights, drop kick me Jesus through the goalposts of life.
Well, that's all I needed to know. This is now my favorite movie.
They are riffing on old 1950s sci-fi horror films, but they thought it would be funny if, unlike in those films, their science expert had no clue where the creature came from. The studio wasn't thrilled and actually asked them to write a scene where Bert found a UFO and eggs. They wrote it, pitched it to the crew, and everyone agreed it was a terrible idea.
Thank God.
Last thing here, Kevin Bacon's wife went into labor during his last day on the set. Right after filming of the scene where Walter is killed by the Graboid, the couple's son, Travis Bacon, was born June 23rd, 1989.
Travis Bacon.
Delicious.
Bye. Ew.
Okay, so I think we can get to our verdicts, which will be somewhat obvious here. But before we get to those obvious verdicts, it's time for some mail. You didn't think there wasn't going to be any mail, did you?
There's always mail.
Mail time! When you control the mail, you control information.
Mom asked me to ask you if there's any mail for us here by mistake.
What?
All right, so let's start with some comments that we got on our last episode, Comet. So first, this is from our co-host that episode, Maddie Savannah Paul. They wrote, "Thanks for having me on. Always love to share an underrated gem." Which only one of us thought it was an underrated gem, but that's okay.
Yeah, I thought it was a perfectly rated gem.
Next, we have a comment on Comet from Scotty Cameron. Longtime listener, longtime commenter. "Great episode. Glad Maddie was able to share an obscure movie with you and was able to add a film to my watch list for whenever I get around to seeing it. So I see Vampire's Kiss got mentioned here, so I must ask, have either of you, Gab or Dylan, seen the trailer for Renfield, where Nicolas Cage plays Dracula? Renfield is going to be Nicolas Cage's 7th comic book movie, if I recall correctly, which looks fun. He went from playing a person who thought he was a vampire to actually playing the king of vampires. I would gladly come on the podcast. Well, wait, before we get to the next thing, we talked about Renfield briefly and talked about, like, Renfield has to be the first thing that we, like, actually go see and talk about while it's in theaters, I feel like.
Yes, and honestly, I'm down to do that. We're going to pick a day, we're going to go to the movies, we're going to see it, and then we're going to immediately podcast about it afterwards.
Yes, whenever that comes out in April, whatever day it is, we will try and do that.
Putting it in my
calendar.
calendar.
Comes out, we'll figure it out.
Yeah, around the day it comes out.
All right. I would gladly come to the podcast to talk about Bumblebee and my fondness for Transformers being the one live-action Transformers movie that got it right where the other 5 failed. Funny thing is, my fondness for Transformers is really just an extension for my fondness of the Marvel and DC universes and Star Trek. So it's just another geeky comic book-esque franchise I enjoy. Okay, enough talk of Transformers and franchises of a similar vein. For now, yes, offer accepted. That's not how that works. What do you mean offer accepted? You made the offer to us. We have to accept.
He really just gamed the system there. He really pulled one over on us.
These are the briefest negotiations we ever had. We talked to Maddie for months before making that happen.
Wow. Well, all right, Scotty, I guess it's your podcast anyway.
You tell us when, I guess.
Yeah.
Okay, so now we're done with the comments. Let's get to some mail. Well, to some email. First we have one from Trevor, who had emailed in a while back.
Oh,
Trevor
yes.
says, hello again. Hi, Gab and Dylan. Thought I'd reach out again. I'm sorry. I feel like I cut you off real bad right there.
No, you didn't. I'm just excited about Trevor. Okay. He's our guy.
Let's get back to Trevor. Sorry. Now I feel like I cut off Trevor in his message. Okay. Hi, Gab and Dylan. Thought I'd reach out again. I appreciate the lovely shout out a few weeks back. You asked how I found the show. It's actually not as serendipitous as it might sound. Long story short, my ex got into cycling and fitness. A few years back, a friend of hers brought her to a cycling class that Gab taught. And she and I both started following Gab on Instagram. Your show popped up on my IG stories one day. I have a long commute, and I thought this was a great way for me to pass the time.
That is absolutely fucking fantastic, Trevor. First of all, did you enjoy the class? Was it good? Second of all, I don't remember. I mean, obviously, I've taught thousands of classes. If reach out to me on Instagram, I want to see if I remember you.
Well, I think that he says a friend of hers brought her to a cycling class that Gab taught, and she and I both started following you. So I don't know if he even went to the class. So respect that one. After this relationship, he continued following you on Instagram, and
hell yeah,
that for the long commute, he thought this would be a good podcast, and I hope it is, Trevor.
Trevor, I'm so flattered. I've never felt more famous in my life. Thank you so much.
Bro.
That's amazing. You are the best, and I hope you enjoy it, and I hope you keep listening. And wow, thank you.
Continuing, Trevor said, nonetheless,
you hear that, Mom? I just want my mom to understand. My mom will never listen.
She doesn't know how to get to this thing.
She has no idea how to get to this.
I don't even know how to use Stitcher. You think she knows how to get to a podcast? Trevor continued, nonetheless, keep up the great content. I love your reviews and discussions. You guys are informed and knowledgeable, but never talk down to the audience. The dumb, stupid audience. Trevor, why would you say that? No, Trevor didn't say that part. A great show for cinephiles and casual movie viewers alike.
Wow.
Thank you. That was
Trevor,
so nice.
You know what? I'm just going to say it. Trevor's my favorite listener.
Stop declaring favorites.
If you'd like to be my favorite listener, you can Venmo me at...
I also accept Cash App and Zelle. All right.
I don't know how to use Cash App. Are you crazy?
I tried it one time and got hacked immediately. I was like, nope. That's the end of that.
Oh my God.
That's why I don't use Uber either. I was like, no, I only use Lyft. Uber, I started getting messages that my family password had been created, my family account. I was getting emails over and over again that was like, Sanjeet has now created an Indian account. I was like, oh no, oh no. I was at work freaking out. I was like, oh my God. Luckily, it was only connected to a limited amount of monies, which Uber never gave me back.
That is the best thing I've ever heard.
Oh, it was so not cool. I was freaking out. Poor Trevor. I feel like his lovely email has gone off the rails as I've just continually interrupted it.
No. That's amazing. You know, it's really interesting. I think there are Uber people and I think there are Lyft people. And like for me personally, I will never open the Lyft. Like if my only option to get home from the Sahara Desert was a Lyft, I would just die in the desert. But Corey only uses Lyft.
I feel like Uber is probably better. Like Uber is the travel of choice thing. I mean, these are all the same rideshare app. Taxis are better. Taxis are regulated better, whatever. But I can't use Uber. I legitimately don't think I can now.
Sanjeet really
I think the end of my negotiations with Uber was I emailed them and I was like, keep the money, just cancel my account forever, please. Like I was like, no boss, that's enough.
You know what's really funny though? Sometimes I Uber to work when I have to be there at 6 a.m. because taking the subway at 5 a.m. is a risk I cannot take. And sometimes a yellow taxi pulls up. Like they also have access to Uber. It's crazy.
Yeah, because they have no business anymore but that. They need to now. Yeah. I see like every train station on Long Island used to also have like a taxi that was like right there. And those are gone now, I feel like.
Yeah. Uber for life. So anyway, yeah, you would be a Lyft person, but honestly, like there's another Lyft person that I love.
I'm not a Lyft person by choice. It's by force. I can't. I have no choice.
Can't Giselle have an Uber that you could use, like her account?
I can't.
Oh my God.
That is fine for Giselle, not for me.
Wow. That's insane. Well, I'm so sorry.
Yeah. Once I started giving rides in India, I was like, that's not good. Okay, but back to Trevor's email, which is almost done. Okay. This has been so concise and perfect. Your email, not me. One last thing. Did you hear about the new film Renfield?
Stop
Nicolas
it.
Cage, I swear to God, Nicolas Cage is not only a vampire, he is the vampire. Dracula. Thought you'd enjoy that little tidbit, Trevor.
Trevor, you belong here. You are family now.
You have slid right in.
Wow.
All right. We have another email that I will try and be more concise with. Scotty Cameron emailed about Tropic Thunder.
Jesus Christ. All right. Sorry,
Hey-
Scotty. I'm happy to hear from you again.
Hey, Dylan and Gab. Great episode as usual.
Thanks.
Tropic Thunder is a fun movie. I loved Tom Cruise, Ben Stiller, and Robert Downey Jr. in the movie. I can see how Robert Downey Jr. doing blackface wouldn't fly today, and there has been some controversy about it in recent years. Megyn Kelly tried to do a whataboutism about Robert doing blackface in the film to divert attention from her controversial remarks about blackface on NBC. I guess Megyn Kelly didn't actually watch the movie because the film was making a point about blackface being bad, while her comments on NBC insinuated that blackface wasn't such a bad thing. It's fitting that Always Sunny in Philadelphia was mentioned because I really like the episode where Mac and Dennis are in Lethal Weapon 6 because that episode mocks blackface and portrays it as a bad thing, which both the characters Dennis and Mac take turns playing Riggs and Murtaugh, so they're each in blackface at different times.
That's amazing.
Yes, requiescat in pace is Latin for stop doing this to me, man. Come on.
It's
Is
amazing
Latin-
to hear you struggle.
Oh, I should just like really confidently be like requiescat in pace. Of course, that's how it's said.
Yeah.
Like,
you
you gotta
it
just
definitely
confidently
sounds less
declare
dumb that way.
It does when you're confident about it. Is Latin
Okay.
for rest in peace. I play a lot of Assassin's Creed, and I read Assassin's Creed comics. When Ezio closes the eyes of someone who dies, he says that phrase in Latin that I'm not going to try again.
Got
You
it.
almost got me, Scotty. To pay respects to the recently deceased enemy or ally. Yes, Peter talking about The Godfather is when he says it insists on itself.
Upon
You're-
itself.
He also sent me the clip. Sincerely, Scotty. It
Mm.
insists upon itself.
Play it, play it, play it.
You want me to play the clip right now? Guaranteed ad. You asked for this. You asked for this accurate ad, Gab.
You should. I just got a 3-month free trial of YouTube Premium. It's the best. 3 months from
I
now,
just
I'm
use
going to
ad
be
block on my
devastated.
computer.
Oh, I don't know what that is.
Guy, there's one more secret I feel I have to share with you. I did not care for The Godfather. What? Did not care for The Godfather. How can you even say that, Dad? Didn't like it.
Peter, it's so good. It's like the perfect movie.
This is what everyone always says. Whenever they say De Niro, Al Pacino. I mean, you never see Robert Duvall. I know. No, fine actor. Did not like the movie. Why not? Couldn't get into it.
Explain yourself. What didn't you like about
It insists upon itself, Lois.
What?
It insists upon itself.
What does that even mean?
Because it has a valid point to make. It's insistent. It takes forever getting in.
I'm stopping it there.
I
And
mean,
you know
that's
what?
our podcast.
It basically is. And you know what? I kind of agree with Peter about The Godfather. I'm just going to say it.
I've
I'm
never
just gonna
seen
say
it.
You know what? It's fine. I don't even think it's like the best mob movie.
Yeah, I think I've heard other people say that it's like it's kind of like the hot topic that no one's willing to discuss, where it's just kind of like, yeah, of course I like it, but I don't love it.
It was fine. And I will say, Marlon Brando, I had to turn on the subtitles because I was like, what happened to the 5 dogs? And it was like, oh, the 5 families are at war. That's what he's saying. Because they're talking like this the whole movie.
Yeah.
And I'm like, nope, not a word of it. Like,
Remember when Marlon Brando was hot?
that's long before I was born, guy.
Well, I mean, obviously, but I'm just saying, like, he was, and then he became this like mush mouth old potato.
I don't think I've ever described a person as a potato.
Oh, you're missing out. There are so many potatoes out there.
Oh my God. Please don't tell me if I'm a potato or not. Okay,
You're
let's
not a
get to the
potato.
last email.
Oh God, there's more. All right.
There's one more from DJ Barons. From DJ Khaled. Skeleton Twins request. I would be more than happy to discuss this on the pod. I'm in the Vancouver, BC area. This be my fat face, aka Deej. And I promise nothing but movie discussing from now on. So it took a while to get into it for the Shyamalan twist at the end that was not DJ Barons. It was actually my fat face.
Very good. Did you see my spit take when he said this be my fat face?
Gab really enjoys it every time I talk about my fat face.
I really do. Skeleton Twins. Yeah, all right.
That was the one that we discussed with Bill Hader and Kristen Wiig.
Yeah. I'm sure it's great. It looks a little like an emo indie. But I'm here for it. Speaking of, Fall Out Boy has new music.
Did emo indie make you think of that?
Yes, it did actually.
Oh, okay. All right. That's cool.
Yeah, you know I love Fall Out Boy. All right. Well, anyway. Back to the Dirtworm movie.
Do or do not. There is no try.
The guilty will be punished.
Sentence is death.
Yeah, not for me. I say no.
And obviously, since I suggested it, I do say it is a movie to watch before you die, especially if you're a horror fan or a fan of practical effects.
Well, I will say this. If you disagree with me or agree with me, or, if you just want to talk to me and ignore Dylan, you can send an email to movies to watch before you die at gmail.com, or
hit us up on anchor.fm/movies to watch. Leave a voicemail or whatever. Gab, next week we have a guest again.
I'm so excited.
We're going to be talking about the movie Wag the Dog with our guest Keen Machine.
Keen Machine, finally. So excited.
Yes, it's the moment that all of our listeners have been waiting for because he's at least half of them.
All two of the other ones.
Yes. So thank you so much for listening. You can catch us, like we said, at our email or on Anchor, and we'll see you next week.
Bye, everybody.
Broke into the wrong goddamn rec room, didn't you, you bastard?